Next speaker on this session is Mr. David Coldrey from SAP. Welcome, sir.
Thanks very much. And I see we have a very vigilant moderator here that's keeping us to our time, so better get on with it. In the previous, in the opening remarks, one of the speakers spoke about this multi-utility that you get a single bill. I live in Singapore, and I get a single bill for gas, electricity, water, and rubbish collection. One bill, one payment. And there are 4 different distribution companies. So Singapore Power runs the billing system on behalf of all the others. And it's a true service company. And it runs on SAP, I'm very happy to say. So this is possible from a technology perspective. This has been around for many years. It's actually a political discussion. It's a commercial discussion that you can actually provide this service to the other participants. And actually, I think the gas distribution companies are the most nimble because you're commercial companies, you're commercially owned. And so this is a service that you could offer to the electricity companies who struggle to make those changes as quickly. So the benchmark for service is in fact our B2C experience. We're used to dealing in the B2C world, and that's what our customers expect. They now expect that the world works the way they work with their phone. And that's how they think they should interact with a utility company, because it's just a service. So we're also very fortunate in India to have a number of the gas distribution companies as customers of SAP, and we're very humbled by that, but feel very responsible by that, because this is very important to us to help these companies continue to grow, as the regulator was saying, that he has high expectations of the market, and that's our goal as well. So we see all these trends happening, but what are the best business KPIs? Well, the companies need to be able to do this growth, but at a low cost. We've seen similarities in the oil and gas and in the mining industry where they had tremendous growth over the last years, but at a very high cost. So the money was rolling in, so it was really great, but then their prices went down, and they've had to readjust to a new normal to be able to grow at a really low cost. And that's something, the cost to operate can't just go exponentially up. Okay? So you've got to be able to do this growth that's expected of you and your companies want to do, but at the right cost. It's also standardization of processes, because that's a way of keeping costs down. And we see this as a big trend in the market as to manage costs. And I relate it to whether you own an apartment or you rent an apartment. When you rent an apartment and you walk in and you see in the living room the wall is cream, and you say, I don't really like cream, I like white. But it's a rented apartment, and so you just accept it. If it's your own apartment, you spend many weekends testing different colors of white, matte finish, gloss, etc., etc. And it costs much more. And that's the difference we've seen between on-premise solutions and cloud solutions. The trend on cloud solutions is to have less options. And the less options is because it performs the required task without letting your users spend many months spending lots of money determining what color cream they like, okay, for no business value, because low cost to operate, that's a key perspective. And the issue about it is fast delivery, fast adaptation, okay? And that's what we see, this balance between on-premise solutions and cloud solutions. And that's the balance, how it comes. The ability to operate quickly and to make changes quickly, and that is really the key. So what are the main business processes that you perform? So it's obviously the customer billing, the interaction, okay? It's the management of the assets, and it's management of the gas within the asset, okay? So there's three major pieces. It's the customer, and whether that customer is a domestic, commercial, or a vehicle customer. It's being able to interact with that customer in a really easy way, accurately, in a way that the customer likes, and to collect the payments. The other thing is managing the assets. So you're going through this massive expansion. So you have to maintain those assets really well. You have to know where they all are, because they're all underground. Okay? Because it's about long-term cost management. You want to be able to do a really good job in the laying of those assets, knowing exactly where they are, because you have to maintain them long-term. And then the third part is the management of the gas. Okay? As you have more and more customers, you have more and more product that you're managing. So it's the buying and selling of that. It's the managing of the pipelines. And we have solutions for all three of those. So we can help you do those. And again, it's about using data, common data, what we find. A lot of the management of the gas within the pipeline uses measurement criteria that you use for collecting either from customers or from metering points along the network. So some of the things that we've really worked on in terms of technology, so workforce management. So we might say, well, mobile has been around for a while. Yes, it has. But the reason it's so important is, one, we want to link it with geodata, so send the person to the right place. Okay? We also want to make sure that as we have a changing workforce, the younger workforce, they use everything comes on one of these things, on a smart device. Okay? It also means I have less training because I send the information with the work order. Okay? And so that's really key for productivity. The other thing is we have this very valuable information sitting in the GIS system, the location data, and we have the business transaction system. But for too long, they've been separate. And so we've had efforts to try to synchronize these two and to get the data across. And so we've worked really hard to bring these two together without trying to synchronize them, because we know how difficult that is. Okay? To be able to do analytics using that geodata, because that's really valuable. And that helps to make that more useful. So what we're trying to do is to make the data that is sitting in that geosystem, the GIS system, much more valuable, to be used by more users, because you spend so much time and expense getting it, but we need it to be used by more. The other thing we've worked really hard on is improving the usability of the system. And why is that important? So it's always been a great system from a heavy user perspective, but we have more and more infrequent users. We want to spend less and less time training users. Okay? So we've worked really hard and taking it a role-based instead of a process-based. So we have a very good process system, but we've worked hard to change it to be a role-based. So what does the user want? What does this role, I'm in a certain role, how do I need to do my task? So you start off with a dashboard. What do I need to do? How many open work orders do I have? What is the current state of this? So it's like an analytical dashboard. And we can now do that with the technology we have, because we can get that data in real time. So what it allows me to do is to start with an overview, a dashboard. I can see the state of my work as an employee, or as a team leader, or as a manager. I can then get to list a specific set of information, and then also go to the details screen to perform the task. So dependent on who I am as a user, whether I'm the person actually getting into the details screens, or whether I'm the team leader or the manager wanting to focus on the dashboards or the overview, we get that whole set of information and that stream of work, making it easier to use and less training. Because as our workforce changes and changes more quickly, we want to spend less time training the person to get them up to speed.
2 more minutes, David.
Thank you. So the areas that we're really focusing on is the business operational excellence. And then we look doing things like predictive analytics. Okay? But all that needs, so in the first part, I mentioned those three key areas: management of the customer, management of assets, and management of the gas within the pipeline. That's all data that you need to do predictive analytics. You can't do predictive analytics with a fresh air. You need that data that you're collecting from those business processes to be able to do that. On the user experience side, we also have a tool called Copilot that lets you collaborate better. So lets you collaborate with one of your colleagues without calling them to your desk. You can just connect them and show them. It has business context, so you can copy the data and make it much easier to create work. Okay? And then from a selling perspective, from the selling of smart products. So an indication of where we're using machine learning. So a classic process, we get emails from customers. We now have a group of people who say, this email, have to read it, group 1. This one, group 2, group 3, so allocating the work. So that allocation of the work, that's rather tedious. So you can teach a machine to do that. And so with one of the customers in India, we actually did a proof of concept. We used our service ticket intelligence-based machine learning, and we were able to, with a very high degree of accuracy, allocate those emails. And so you might say, oh, that's not very fantastic, but it's saved a number of people work. But also importantly, it gets the response back to the customer much quicker, because now it's the email comes in and it's sitting with the right group immediately. It's not waiting for a bottleneck of people to send it to the correct place. And so it's about customer focus. It's about getting it back to the customer really quickly. Another area we're working on machine learning is the classic meter to cash process, is the management of the meter orders. So what happens is we create a meter order, we send it to the meter reader out, they come back, and some of them are implausible. And so then it needs to go to a role, which is the meter reading clerk, and looks through these and checks whether they plausible or not, or whether to reject it. So what we can do is then look at that clerk's performance in the way that they determine whether something is plausible or not, and then propose to them to say, based on what you've done in the past, this percentage are in fact plausible, this are not plausible, and these you need to look at harder. So again, what we do here is we present to the person doing this work, what, based on your previous activities, we think these are all plausible, these you need to look at more, and these you need to reject. So again, saving work for that person. We continue to do innovation in many areas, and these dark blue areas are where we're doing the innovation. So this is our value map for utilities, all the areas that are core industry processes, as well as some general processes. So we're doing innovation in many, many areas, increasing the usability of the system, using the tools like machine learning to actually make it possible to increase productivity. And how do you keep up to date? So there's so much that we're doing, and so we've got a customer newsletter for utilities. So you need to subscribe to it. I cannot subscribe you to it because of Data Privacy Act law. So please, it's in the notes, but if you send a mail to SAP Utilities News at sap.com, you can subscribe and get the latest on a regular basis of what's happening in the utilities world. So thanks very much.